Welcome to the Menopause Coach Podcast with me, your host, as always, Adele Johnston, the Menopause Coach and your educator for the next 20 minutes or so. As always, these episodes are brought to you for entertainment, for information, so that you can lead your menopause, your woman's health, and whatever you choose to take from these little nuggets of information, living your best life, living your best healthy life. But they are not meant to replace medical information, so please always consult with your own medical team or doctor if you have any concerns. That is not what this episode is for. But we are here together today to talk about menopause in your 30s, and is it actually possible? For many of you that will know my backstory already, because we've been here together for over 200 episodes, which is just insanely amazing. But you will remember, if you've listened to more than just this one, if you're not and you're here and you're new, then welcome. Go back and listen. You will love them all. But I started my own menopause journey at just 33. I started to notice some changes. And of course, back and forward to the doctor, in and out of different conversations. And it was just always put down to stress. I had a busy corporate career in management. I had young twin babies, and we were in this kind of transitional phase of life where I didn't even recognize that menopause was something that I was potentially facing at 33. By 35, I knew it was hormonal. I knew what I was experiencing was not just stress, was not just the impacts of the life that I was leading, but more than that. And then by 37, it took me 20 months to be tested, repeat tested, and then confirmed by both the NHS system in the UK and my private route that I paid for additional testing and support before they finally came together and said, you are right, this is in fact very early menopause. So I was 33 when I started to notice it, 35 when I knew that this was in fact something different to stress, but 37 by the time I was diagnosed. So we're probably giving away the answer to the question in the title of this one right away, but I'm not here to have you have to listen to everything before you get the answers you need. So if you've ever Googled something yourself, like, why am I suddenly anxious all of the time? Why am I having heart palpitations out of the blue? Why am I experiencing insert the issue you are having right now? Maybe it's not sleeping properly. Maybe it is painful intercourse or sexual behaviours. Maybe it is changes to your menstrual cycle. Whatever those changes or those challenges that you are facing, you are jumping into AI or Google and you're asking for help. I know that because I was you. Before AI even existed, I was inside Google asking for all the help that I could get, I could learn about, I could understand what was happening to me. So I know you're doing the same. Maybe you feel like a completely different person and you're in your 30s, or out of nowhere, you're just stumbling across this episode. That would be cool. If you're new here and you've just found it because of the title, then I love that for you. And I love that you're here with us. But what's really important in all of this is we've got to remember that as women, we have not had the information that we've needed as easy as this forever. Okay, we are due centuries of research, centuries of support. And actually, I feel in a really blessed and privileged position that as your educator in this space, as your menopause coaching guide in this space, that I get to bring you this information and we get to have these conversations on a weekly basis. I never take that lightly. But what I want you to see in all of this is, this isn't just something that happens later in life. There was always this misconception that menopause was this older woman thing that happened. But actually, there are girls as young, so I don't know them as young as this, but they are ages along with me now, but they were only 10 or 12 or 13 when they were post-menopausal. And it wasn't because they had genetically had inherited a gene that meant that that was always going to happen to them. There are different things that occur, whether that be through interventions, surgically or medically or chemically, or in fact, we don't know why some women go into a very early menopause, like the ladies I've just talked about here. And if you Google that or AI it, you will find their stories. It's not always the case that we are in our later years. And, if I say we typically will always think about women in menopause being in maybe their late 50s, 60s, 70s and beyond. But today we're not talking about whether menopause or something like it can be like an older lady thing, a later in life thing. We're talking about this as something that as women at any age, really, my 15-year-old daughters are fully aware of menopause and that it can happen at any age. So it does not have an age category attached to it, as we've previously been misled through. This is not something that will happen in later life for you. So if you are already in your 20s, listen up. If you are in your 30s, definitely put double ear listening on for this one. And if you're beyond that, then again, you're already in your menopause journey, whether you think it or not. So I want to welcome you back into this space, because this is where you are going to always get the breakdown of women's health topics. Inside menopause, outside menopause, the things that I know you are searching for, because I'm asked about them almost on a daily basis, whether in my emails, over my social media, or for those of you that reply to these podcast episodes and ask for more details. I love it when you do that, because it tells me that what we are sharing with you is what you need. So today's episode is all about early menopause, very early menopause for some people, for some women, and perimenopause in particular, and why so many women in their 30s are feeling like your bodies are changing and you don't know why. Now we're going to start with a big question. And I alluded to this at the start of this episode, but can menopause happen in your 30s? And the short answer to this, which I will always give you as straightforward as I ever possibly can, is yes. Yes, it can. And it's not that I'm going to say that it's super rare that that can happen, because actually, when we think about menopause itself, it's an umbrella term. There are phases within menopause as we journey through them. For you, you may be in your premenopause state at the moment in your journey, where you do not have menopausal change, you do not have menopausal symptoms, your hormones are relatively behaving as much as hormones or sex hormones do in your cycle. Then when we enter into our second part of that journey, which is our perimenopause, that can be at any age. So I don't want you under the disillusion that you need to be in your 50s, 60s or beyond before menopause occurs. There is the phase perimenopause that happens prior. Now, when menopause starts before the age of 40, it is called premature menopause or premature ovarian insufficiency, or as is down on my notes, very early menopause. It makes me laugh, but it's like, okay, I don't mind what it's down there as long as it's recognized, because it means then that I can get the help that my body needs and what I want for my own body. Now, we know that very early menopause or premature ovarian insufficiency, POI for short, affects roughly 1 in 100 women. It is not common, so it's not like it's happening all of the time or 50% of the time or more, 1 in 100 women. So it's not super common, but it does happen, and it's not impossible that it will happen prior to 30 or prior to 20. But, and this is really important, most women in their 30s who feel a bit off are not in full menopause. There may just be some indication changes happening, and this might not actually be related to menopause itself. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky and nuanced. What's far more likely is something called perimenopause. And perimenopause, like I've said, is the phase before menopause actually occurs. This is when a lot of women in their mid-30s, I would say by 38, 39, you will be noticing changes. Your hormones are already in a bit of a fluctuation state by that point. But typically, because we've always been fed the narrative that menopause does not happen until we're in our 50s or beyond, we don't look out for the signs that it is starting to change. It does not mean that if you are experiencing those symptoms that you have gone into post-menopause or menopause, but you may be starting the early signs of perimenopause. And it's super important, I believe personally, for you, it was for me, that I was aware of that happening, because then we can make some changes, choices, and we get to guide our own body through our own transition. No one's journey is ever the same. And that is why this is so important, that you are armed with this information today, evidence-based, professionally backed. Okay, for those of you that are not familiar, I am Adele Johnston, the Menopause Coach and Educator. I have over 20 years of experience in women's health, nearly a decade inside the menopause space alone. I'm the founder of the Menopause Support Coach Certification inside our beautiful Menopause Academy. And we do everything from women's health education, obviously through to certifying menopause coaches to be at the forefront and the support requirements that this world has. It's a worldwide platform. I've educated hundreds and hundreds of menopause coaches with my methods. I share all of my frameworks and methodologies with them so they too can go and achieve the most amazing results with their clients. The reason I share this with you, I am also certified in nutrition, certified in trauma-led breathwork, and have a master's in psychology. Why do I tell you this? A little bit of it is if you're new and you don't know who I am and you're here listening to this, I want to show you that there is evidence-backed credibility behind these episodes. But I also want to invite you to expand your thinking, to look at this as an opportunity to go deeper. When you hear me share things, they are always evidence-backed. So go deeper into the parts of these episodes that you yourself feel intrigued by, because they're only short episodes. So you get to go deeper and you get to ask me questions. Okay, I'm here for this. Back to the episode. So symptoms can begin earlier than we even expect, but we are not potentially aware of the fact that what you're experiencing may be the early starts of perimenopause symptoms. And this is where it can get a bit confusing because not everyone will experience the same things. No one really talks about the fact that we can be experiencing these symptoms well before we even hit 40, well before we even hit 50. So you may notice things like anxiety that feels new. You've maybe never had anxiety before. I hadn't really experienced it before my menopause started to occur. And for me, it was very sudden. And it's not the whole thing of where people will say, but don't be stressed, you're okay. It's not as easy as that. It's very much an intense feeling of being anxious. And when health anxiety also comes up as part of that, it can just feel too much. You may have sleep disruption. You're maybe waking at around 3 o'clock in the morning most mornings and thinking, why am I awake? I can't get back to sleep. There are reasons this is happening. We know of things like brain fog, hot flushes, night sweats, but they don't always occur very early into the menopause transition. So again, is being aware of where are you, what changes are happening, maybe in your cycle, your mood, your ability to recall names or words, to think quickly when you're problem solving can change. And instead of connecting it just to thinking I'm stressed or, stress is heightened right now, it's not always the case. It can be, of course it can be. And I also want you to see that there isn't anything wrong with you. Your body is transitioning and we just haven't ever been taught how to transition with it mentally. So as the physical changes, the emotional is impacted and we have these onsets of change that can frighten us, that can create that anxious little environment that we sit in. And there's a little bit of a challenge that we face then. Women's health has historically been so under-researched and under-discussed. So when symptoms don't fit neatly into a bracket or a box, we often get dismissed. And we often get sent away being misdiagnosed, told it's just anxiety or burnout because we're doing too much. It used to really irritate me when people would say, and I say people, I mean my mum, would say, you're burning the candle at both ends. And it's like, okay, but there's something underlying here for me. So again, it's addressing the root cause for us has been a challenge. So hormones obviously can be a huge big part of the picture. Of course they can. And we're very complex. So how do you know what to look out for? And I want this to be really taken seriously right now, because for many of us who have been gaslit inside the medical space and been told that it is just you're doing too much or you need to rest more, it's not going to resolve where you are. So I want you to know what to look out for. It's worth speaking to a doctor if you notice these certain changes. Number one, significant changes to your cycle. Now, if I mean significant, I mean things like you notice that it is a lot shorter or it has become a lot longer, more frequent. heavier flow, lighter flow, painful bleeds when you've maybe never had them before. I want you to recognize where there are changes in your cycle. Number 2, any type of hot flushing or sweating at any age, okay, where you literally feel like you are a furnace, you are on fire, you cannot cool down, you are waking up soaking wet through the night, then please do not dismiss this as just something. Maybe the house was too hot, maybe the room was too hot, maybe it's just the weather. Okay, I can guarantee you that these changes are something your body is communicating to you as, whoa, something's not feeling the best for me right now. Persistent sleep disruption is number 3. So if you recognize that actually you are finding it difficult to fall asleep, stay asleep, you're waking quite regularly through the early hours of the morning, then again, these are naturally linked to changes within your hormonal and endocrine profiles. So listening to what the body is sharing with you is important. There's nothing for you to act on and do right now, but if these are new signs and symptoms, then these are definite things to start speaking to your GP or medical representative around. And the final thing, the 4th thing, is around symptoms that feel different for you. So if you recognize that things are starting to show up new and they haven't been there before, definitely pay attention to them. Your doctor may check some hormone levels, especially if you're under 45. Okay, because the tricky part is menopause does not have a test. So we cannot just run some bloods and test whether you are or are not menopausal, but we can run some tests alongside the sex hormones to check for other things like thyroid, for example. Your hormones are fluctuating all of the time. So when we do blood tests, please know they are never accurate. This is so important. Although they are not accurate, they do tell us a little bit of a story. So I still prefer with my own menopause journey to run bloods. I also prefer with the clients that I work with and support to know their panels. And this is why, again, tracking symptoms is so important. More than anything, track. Even if it's just in your mobile phone calendar, so you can put either a smiley face or an unhappy face with a little bit of a context to it so that you know how you felt at any given time in that month. And recognize the patterns of change. If you're in your 30s listening to this and you're wondering where you are, what is happening, and the number 1 thing is not to panic, okay? This is so important, not to panic where you're sitting right now and thinking, is this something that is detrimental to me? I want you to look at this as, number 1, start tracking your cycle and symptoms, like I've just said. The second thing is, if you are having sleep disruption, then looking at certain things in your lifestyle. Has anything become a little bit more challenging for you? Is work a little bit more stressful? Are we bringing alcohol late into the evening? Have we got disruption to things like sleep? Has stress been heightened recently? Has your nutrition maybe become a little bit less optimal because we have been feeling a bit stressed? We have been a bit more tired, so we're turning more to those easy foods. This happens. You're not a bad person for it. Hands up. I do it too, right? We all slip into these moments, but when we can reflect around, how has my sleep hygiene and routine been? And where is my stress levels right now? And nutritionally, am I actually optimal in what I'm eating in terms of plant-based foods, in terms of complete protein sources, or have I been more in the snacking, confectionery, easy foods? And also think about, you are always in charge. Always. This is your body. It is no one else's. So you can have that informed conversation with your GP or medical provider at any time. Do not think that you are inconveniencing anybody. You are not. This is your health. This is your body, and you get to do this your way. If you're ever lost, you don't know where to start, you must reach out. Message me, email me, whatever suits you best. And myself or a member of the team will be there to help you, even if it means we send you one of our free downloads of our symptom checker. Super easy, right? It makes doing your checks so much quicker. And the most important thing, and I want to share this with you because from me to you, one woman in very early menopause to potentially another, do not ignore what your body's telling you or sharing with you. You're not imagining what is happening right now. And I want to share with you, you are definitely not alone. So knowing this information is what is going to give you the most abundance of certainty. You know that you can reach out to me as your menopause coach, as your menopause educator, okay, whether that be through, Adele, I just want to ask this quick question, or you join one of my live masterclasses, or you are inside one of my beautiful programs. We have a membership model where it's only £27 a month. You have access to me and my team in there. You will be on live calls with us. You will have opportunities for meetups and in person. And most importantly, you have a beautiful private community inside a really safe, supportive space where you can ask me anything anytime, right up to one-to-one support and care, where I will work with you on your hormone profiles, on your menopause journey. And that can be anything just from a few weeks to a few months or more, depending on what you want and need. So never feel lost, never feel stuck. Okay, there is literally something here for every single one of you listening to this right now. I promise you. And it is what suits you is what you need. So menopause can happen in your 30s. It can happen before then, and it can happen after then, of course. It is rare that it will happen that early, but it does. I am one of those women sitting here sharing this with you now as a very early menopausal woman. It has come with its complexities for me, of course it has, but also it has come with its advantages as well. And what's far more common is hormonal changes that are not being talked about enough. If we can just open up, as we have more of these conversations together, we are going to be able to be well knowledged, well resourced, and well supported as we navigate the phases of our journeys. Okay, and the more we understand it, the more empowered we are, the more we get to advocate for ourselves, for our bodies, for what we know we want and what we know we need. Super important. So if this episode has felt supportive for you, if there's been even just one nugget of information that you have taken from this today, then I really do encourage you to go ahead and share this with someone else. Okay, someone else in your network that you're like, hey, you got to go listen to this. You know, it's a really short, easy to listen to episode, because the chances are maybe that individual is Googling or AIing the same thing that you have been. And this can just be that little bit of, ooh, this makes sense. I am always here, so please reach out if you have any questions. And as always, please do make sure that you are subscribed to this podcast. The Menopause Coach Podcast is going nowhere. We are going from strength to strength, bringing you the most abundant episodes each week. But as always, it's so important to me that you get what you need. So drop over into my emails, adele@adeljohnstoncoaching.com, or over into Instagram at the.menopausecoach. Come share with me what you're taking away from this episode today and what episodes you would love to hear in the future, because I am here to support you. So pick my brains, literally ask me what you need and I will bring it to you, because that is what we are here for. This episode is recorded with so much love, evidence-backed, very supported, and evidence-based researched. But I want to just make one disclaimer to you here and now. It is not meant to replace your medical information or support. So please do consult with your own medical teams if you have anything you need support with in that space. Until next week, keep being amazing, and remember that you get to do this your way. And together, you and I, we are making menopause mainstream for every episode you listen to and every episode you share.